Cuban baseball, a tradition almost 150 years old. It's always fascinated me. But then I love almost everything about the game. I have since I was a kid in Iowa. I had nobody to play catch with, and so I drew like a little square in the barn, the farm we lived on, and I would pitch game after game after game. Always won. It's an extraordinary experience. I never made the pros, but I'm still playing old guys baseball down in Florida with former greats like Red Sox pitcher Bill Lee. He's one of the most colorful ball players ever, and now a good friend.
The old man in the sea, Randy White. Seaboat captain, tarpon fisherman, and he actually writes very good little novels, you know.
This is a story that began when Ernest Hemingway's granddaughter, Lorian, read a book that I set in Cuba, and she sent me a letter. In it, she told me something very few people know. Back in the 40s, Hemingway started a kids' baseball league in Cuba. He coached one of the teams, which he called the Gigi Stars. It was named after his son Gregory. That's him on the left. It's not in the history books. People know Hemingway as a hunter, a fisherman, a hard drinker, and an author, a guy's guy. But I was intrigued with the idea of Hemingway, the coach, playing ball with poor kids in the Cuban countryside. But there was something else. I'd sworn I'd never return to Cuba. 20 years ago, I'd had a painful run-in with the Castro regime. I'd been trapped there by their military. But the idea of finding Hemingway's old team, and of trying to help some kids in Cuba play ball, now that might be a reason to go back.
He heard that Hemingway had started a league for the kids, and he thought it was a great metaphor that ties in literature and baseball and fishing and everything that he loves in life.
I said, well, why don't we restart the league? That would be wonderful. It'd be very expensive. We have no equipment. I go, we'll bring everything. We'll bring balls, uniforms, catcher's gears. Of course, I had no idea if we could do it. Only a kook would believe a bunch of middle-aged ball players with beer guts could bust the bureaucracy in a police state that America has embargoed for 40 years. Fortunately, kooks are a specialty of mine. I enlisted two of the best, pals and former pro pitchers, Bill Lee and John Warden.
Well, here we are, shopping again. Try to hit up another vendor for some freebies for Cuba. El Cuba. They play the baseball. Where's their baseball section? Let's see.
John Warden doesn't take a lot too seriously. But this was different.
I'm tickled to death. I mean, I can't wait to get out and see those kids and work with them and take a bunch of goodies down. I mean, it's awesome.
Pulling together a team and gathering more than 4,000 pieces of equipment. It took us a year. We even had home video cameras. We had everything. We thought that the trip was driven by what we would give to the Cubans. What we didn't expect was what they would give to us. Havana was the first of many surprises. The people have a sensuality and a passion that makes the city come alive.
I'll tell you, this city's old, but it's clean and it's just gorgeous.
Everywhere are reminders of the revolution's faded glories. And the split with America is marked as precisely as by a broken clock. There's something about riding on a bus in downtown Havana and seeing all these old cars.
That's cool.
Because when I was playing ball as a young man, those were the cars on the street. So there's this illusion, this curious illusion, that we are once again actually viable athletes. And just like when I was young, Kids were playing baseball everywhere with homemade gear. Hemingway's first home in Havana, the Hotel Ambos Mundos. When Hemingway lived here, travel between the United States and Cuba, it was simple. Times have changed. The U.S. government had not been keen to give us visas, and the closest thing to a welcome wagon in Cuba had been a customs agent who tried to confiscate our gear. But we made it.
The team's starting to form. We're starting to gel a little bit. A little bit of camaraderie here. First morning in.
The guys came from all over the United States. We had a postman, a real estate guy, a comedian, a restaurateur, a heart surgeon, and my son, Rogan. Off to restart a baseball league founded by a father for his son. Hemingway's finca, the farm in San Francisco de Paula, where he spent most of his 30 years in Cuba. This is where he coached the GG Stars. The Hemingway we all know is on display.
That's amazing.
The legacy of African hunting trips and mementos of shooting with Gary Cooper. And everywhere there are books, 8,000 of them. He read, he wrote, but first he lived hard. As a war correspondent, then novelist, and finally a Nobel Prize-winning icon, Hemingway became one of the most recognizable figures in the world. Hemingway is not my favorite writer, but he's certainly one of my favorite writing personalities. I mean, he went out and he lived a life. You know, he lived a life.
These are baseball books?
Look at this.
Jackie Robinson.
He was a baseball fan.
He's got the book on the Gas House Gang.
That's true.
46 Major League Baseball, 1946.
The year I was born.
Same here. Yeah, that's unreal. So he kept up with the old baseball league.
In fact, in his most famous work, Hemingway links his love of baseball with his love of the sea. Out back, Hemingway's fishing boat, the Pilar, brings this link to life. It was her captain, his friend, Gregorio Fuentes, who was to serve as the model for the old man in The Old Man and the Sea. Here, Hemingway wove baseball into a universal story of courage in the face of failure.
I remember that his hands were blistered and he was about ready to go under and he needed some fresh water and he was agonizing and he thought, what would the great DiMaggio do in this situation? And if it wasn't for the metaphor of baseball and that hard thing, he would have never made it back. And when he did get back, what did he bring back? Bag of bones. We're all mortal.
Then we asked the museum director to take us to a part of the finca no one ever visits.
No, well, normally they play here. And
At last, I was on the field where the GG Stars once played. Here, Hemingway carved a space for his team in a remote corner of his finca. Here, he taught his son Gigi to play America's game. Here, the town's children found a haven. It's been more than 40 years since the GGs played on this field, but I still hoped I could find some of them. I wanted the GGs to help me restart the league. At the game. The museum director soon dashed my hopes. We'd been hassled by the Cuban bureaucracy since we landed. Now my request for help in finding the old GGs was denied. My plea for a field on which to restart Hemingway's team was denied. Even permission to play a pickup game at the finca was denied. It reminded me of my last experience with the Cuban government. It reminded me of 1980, the bleak days of Cuba's Mariel Harbor. It was to Mariel Harbor that Castro herded hundreds of thousands of Cubans, all desperate to flee the regime.
Quien no tenga genes revolucionario, quien no tenga sangre revolucionaria. No los queremos, no los necesitamos.
I was in my late 20s. I made my living as a fishing guide, and I was just boneheaded enough to agree to help a Cuban-American friend rescue his family. I borrowed a boat and set off for Cuba. In Mariel Harbor, thousands of us were pinned in by gunboats. Soldiers everywhere. We were held there for 8 days. It was the most dangerous place I've ever been. A lot of gunfire at night, a lot of gunfire. And that was a very violent place. We saw a guy get hit in the face with an AK-47. Blew out all of his teeth, a lot of his teeth. It was an old man, and the guard was trying to take his wedding ring off his finger, and the old man was like, no, 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 and they hit him so fast. Forced to sea by the military, on overcrowded boats, many died. The guards loaded our small boat with 147 refugees, none of them my friend's family. It was on that boat, on that day, that I swore I would never return to Cuba. Few Americans make it to Cuba, and those who do, the government shepherds them to very specific tourist locations. But I was determined to find the old Gigi's. My plan was to wander San Francisco de Paula, armed with little more than a couple of names.
Luis Villarreal. ¿Dónde es el Luis Villarreal?
It seems absurd because it was absurd. The team had been defunct for 4 decades. But to prove that heaven favors the weak and the lame, it worked. It really worked.
¿Qué es su nombre, amigo? Blas, yo me llamo Blas. Señor Blas. Mucho gusto.
Sí, su nombre. Sí. Your name is there.
Blas.
We've been looking for you, my friend. We've been looking for you. I had found Blas Mesa. He was the catcher for the former Stars, and Blas led me to his teammates. I'd found 4 Gigi's, an aging brotherhood, a window into Cuba's baseball history, and Hemingway's. They couldn't have been sweeter.
De niños jugábamos con Papa en la finca, en la casa, y todo nos lo permitía Papa. Papa nos facilitó todos esos juegos a nosotros. Por eso es que los niños, nosotros aquí como niños, recordamos y queremos a Papa, porque fue muy bueno con los niños aquí de San Francisco.
They told me he used to drive the entire team to games in the back of his green Cadillac convertible.
Así fue padre, se puede decir, vaya, no, un decir, ¿no?
Él pichaba flojo, mucha knuckleball. Él tiraba knuckleball a los niños.
Hemingway had a knuckleball?
Knuckleball, sí.
Dance.
Nosotros 10 años, 11 años.
You
Y él knuckleball, y nosotros flycito, y él contento.
Mi amigo, Bill Spaceman Lee, Boston Red Sox.
Boston Red Sox, era el club mío.
Sí?
De Teguila, yo era fanático de Teguila. Oh.
They were as excited as I was about reviving their old team. The old Gigi's took me to their village ball yard, the field where we'd restart Hemingway's league. There we met 6 boys. Their equipment was primitive, but their passion was obvious. Carving a bat from a tree limb, it would take hours. It's an expression of devotion, a sculpture of love. And their shoes that serve for school and play year after year. They had a passion for the game that rain could not dampen. As I stood with 6 boys who might become the core of the new Gigi's, among men for whom Ernest Hemingway was still a fresh memory, my hopes for the league caught new wind.
Gracias, amigos. 15 de mayo.
The Gigi's didn't seem concerned about bureaucratic obstacles. They told me approval would take 5 days. we should return the following Tuesday. Then we could distribute the gear and uniforms to the children and officially resurrect the league. We had a 5-day pass and no time to waste.
I'm gonna get a hat. You know, we're in this tour bus, and we'd pull up at first. It's sort of like, what's this? And our interpreter would jump out, Americana baseball. Yeah, oh, hey, you know, come over. It was great. I loved it. Gave this kid a Cincinnati Reds hat, and he hugged me. And I got a tear in my eye. I mean, it was just great. I mean, it just made you feel so good.
Okay, enjoy. Have fun, guys.
And there was something else I wanted to do. When I was in Mariel, I heard a story about a legendary Cuban pitcher. He had so many windups, they called him the man with 100 moves. I was fascinated by the idea. It was said he lived in the countryside in Pinar del Rio. So the chance to come back to Cuba and actually try to find this amazing character, even though it's 21 years later, and to maybe catch him, that'd be pretty fun. So the next morning, we persuaded our driver to head west into Pinar del Rio, into the farmland that is Cuba's heart. John, Bill, and I all come from rural 4-H type backgrounds, so we were right at home in the farm country of western Cuba. And when we saw some folks playing ball, we didn't hesitate to stop and join them. It wasn't planned, it's just the sort of thing that country people do. And the villagers turned out to watch, drawn by the game's charm or maybe the prospect of gringos dying of heart attacks. Who knows?
In order to play this game well, you have to be in top physical condition. Kind of like us.
Bill's one of the most generous men I know. He's so generous that this former major league great allowed these gentle farm folk to beat him like a cheap conga drum.
They're just laughing and cheering, and if they scored a run on us, that was just a big deal. I mean, they were loving it.
Okay, Bill, no more screwing around, no more nice guys.
Ooh, there's base hit.
By the crowd's reaction, by their antics as much as the players, we discovered something here. An American irony. The game that we loved as children still exists.
Oh!
Like streets filled with 57 Chevys, our game was still alive and vital in Cuba.
We're talking dinner here.
All our lives, we'd been told these people are our enemies. And they'd been told the same about us, especially men of our generation. It's maddening to know that our children, our grandchildren, and theirs are still being told the same sad lie. But not after this day, no longer. Not in this village, anyway. Yet, even in the countryside, reminders of politics are never far out of sight. Fidel Castro's being dominates the island. A power so pervasive that in our days there, we could never get a Cuban to speak his name. Of all the myths that Castro could have chosen to promote himself, he chose baseball. That he'd been a great pitcher and turned down a pro contract to serve his people. The evidence proves otherwise. The Man with 100 Moves had been on my mind for 21 years. At night in Mariel, when the gunfire began, I'd try to fall asleep by picturing all the various wind-ups a pitcher could use. We've been looking for this guy for a long time. This is good. We spent a day talking to people on the street, and we finally got a break. This is the house of the Man with 100 Moves. This is where he lives, but he's working now, so... I told his family that we'd come back the next day. We didn't want to impose. We just wanted to talk a little baseball and see if he wanted to play a game with us. Muchas gracias. Mañana, okay? We still had 3 days until the game with the Gigis. Traveling with John Warden is like being kidnapped by a circus. John's always been bigger than life. He was a pro athlete, pitched for Detroit in the major leagues. That was back in 1968, the year they won the World Series.
To be down 3 games to 1 and come back to win.
Since then, he's devoted his life to making people laugh.
Good call, good call.
John Warden has this whole baseball shtick. He's one of the funniest human beings on earth. The Cubans are they've never seen anyone like John Warden. No, I'm not sure they're ready for John. I'm not sure they're ready for us. Later that night, much later, something really weird happened. There he was, standing right in front of me, the Man with 100 Moves. It was bizarre. He'd heard we were looking for him, and he had somehow found our hotel. It's an amazing thing. It's 2 o'clock in the morning. They've come knocking on my door just to say hello. It was oddly emotional for me. I welcomed him and his friends as best I could. Baseball has its traditions, its bonding rituals, and pitchers, well, they defy all of them. Oh, Jesus. He's a difficult pitcher. I needed some help. I needed my teammates. And that's when the night got even more bizarre. My son's room. He's sound asleep. My own son. Nobody was home. Where the heck were they? I know, it's late, but, you know. After 2 decades, I'd finally found the Cuban legend, but I'd somehow managed to lose my whole team. Maybe they were at an all-night ball game or something, and they'd forgotten to invite their catcher. I went to the front desk and started calling around. Hey, Bill, it's Randy. Hey, the Man with 100 Moves has just stopped at my room. He's there now. No, I'm not kidding you. 2 o'clock in the morning, he just showed up. He wants to see you. By sunrise, with 2 drunken phone calls, he'd organized a game. I'd finally have a chance to catch for Porfirio Perez, the Man with 100 Moves.
You can do it. You're a pitcher.
That morning, we loaded up on the team bus. Well, most of us. Bill decided to take the scenic route.
There he goes. On his trek. Adios.
Ricky Ricardo would have loved Perfidio's pregame training routine.
All right, boys. Hi, man. Let's go play some baseball. Let's think of baseball now. We're in the baseball mood.
Who's got the beer?
Who got the bat?
Pitchers are known for following their own path, and Bill is a trailblazer for individuality. He'd been an All-American at USC, a star with both the Red Sox and the Expos. But it was erudition, principle, and sheer wackiness that confirmed him as a true American original. In the 70s, he stood for legalization of pot. He marched for the Equal Rights Amendment, and he took a very courageous stand for racial integration. He's run for president of the United States 3 times. His personal hero is Buckminster Fuller, and he says he plays baseball because it reminds him of the circularity of a Tibetan prayer wheel. They don't call him Spaceman because he pitched for NASA. Bill, he's walking to the game, so he should probably get here about sunset if an animal doesn't grab him or something. It's easy to see why they call him the man with 100 moves and why he pitched in 8 Cuban national championships. We drafted him for 2 bottles of rum.
Muy bueno. You're only pitching the first 7, 8 innings. Don't worry about it. Man, he's awesome, man. Yeah.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the house that Randy built. Our American team is here. We're ready. We're going to give them a good game. If you look at our players, you'll notice that we are a testament to the genius of American pharmacology.
We were wearing our new uniforms. A lady friend took one look and said, "You idiots, you're going to look like you robbed a carnival." They were perfect. The other team didn't seem to need much stretching.
I'm ready now, yes. I've broken that sweat, and I'll be good for about 33 minutes.
I'm ready to play ball. I'm playing for them, I've decided. I've seen their pitcher.
Team prayer, Rev. Let's go.
The Reverend Tom Petkoff always seems to have the right words.
We ask your Lord's blessing on the boys of summer. We ask that nothing get permanently injured. We ask that you WD-40 their joints. This, Lord, we ask in your name and in baseball's great traditional history's name. Play ball!
Yeah, amen.
That Cadillac is our good luck Changa, a gift from a Santorian priestess.
I am the moral compass, and I'm praying that we get out of here with all of our body parts intact.
Oh, man.
We were a bit stiff at first. By the bottom of the second, we were down by 5.
It's a tough start. Don't be too down on yourself. Just remember, you were never any good at this game anyway, okay?
By the bottom of the third, it was 8.
Bill, Max, Twig, and John.
Slowly, we began to close the gap.
Importante que tú llegues, vamos.
Keep your weight back. Come on, Randy.
I think they were as surprised as we were that we actually scored some runs.
That's the way. Game over. Good job. Beautiful. Way to go, Doc.
I was most excited about the pitcher I was going to catch next.
Now pitching, the man with 100 moves.
We never discussed signs, didn't have to. He knew exactly what he wanted to throw and when. All I had to do was sit up inside or out. And he would hit my glove.
He can dance, I'll tell you that. Women love him. He must be a pitcher. All pitchers are dancers. Like Baryshnikov. All balance. Fluid. Smooth.
Perfidio is a great pitcher with lots of tricks, but these hitters, they'd seen some of his tricks before.
Oh, jeez. 2 runs.
This club has got like 2.5 good innings in it. And then it's over.
But the man still found a way to get outs.
Uh-oh, he hit it. He hit it. They might drop. They might drop. Yeah, boy, man. Good job, Matty, man.
That was great. That was absolutely great. What a duel. What a duel.
Go, boys, toughen up.
Gary Terwilliger's long ball brought us to within 4.
This is a tremendous day.
Then the Spaceman added another. Bill's home run drove in my son Rogan. We were now down by 2.
Well, we're back in the game, boys.
Yes, we are.
Then in the final inning, down by 2 runs, and with men on second and third, we sent out our secret weapon. John went in as third base coach to entertain the fans and hopefully distract their pitcher. It should have worked. It probably would have worked.
Hope they get these signs. We worked on these all night. Back!
But the Spaceman decided to try and steal home. He said he heard the chimes of Saturn ringing.
Ah, Billy!
I got caught stealing home. It was a bad play.
It was a bad play, if you care about winning.
Thank you, sir. My first 3 strides, I thought I had it stolen. And then I found out I was only halfway there.
It was a very dramatic way to end the game.
We hadn't lost the game. We'd found a way to victory. Through the kids. And I'd had a chance to catch a legend I'd heard about on that dark pier in Mariel Harbor 20 years before. Traditionally, after a loss, a team's mood is pretty somber.
Way to go, guys. Great game. Great game. Everybody played well.
You can tell how down we were. God, how it hurts to lose a close game. That same post-loss mood followed us like a shadow, even to dinner. Having Rogan with me on this trip meant everything. He stopped playing baseball at 10 when he fell in love with hockey. But at least he inherited his father's love of dance.
Glad they're getting this on tape.
But then no one can dance like a pitcher, particularly a Cuban pitcher. Although Warden, he was willing to give it a try. The Cuban spirit had possessed John. The sensual rhythms of this warm-hearted country had really captured his heart.
You take so much for granted in the United States, and the way you've grown up and the way you live, and now you're here in this country that you hear so much negative stuff about, and it's been nothing but positive the whole time we've been here. Now it's raining. Holy cow, it's raining. This place is fantastic. Let there be water.
Catching the man with 100 moves, it fulfilled a dream. But it also reminded me how powerful my feelings about Mariel still were. So I kept pressuring our guide until he finally took us to Mariel Harbor. It's off limits.
You think it's safe, Jorge? You look a little frightened, my friend. This is Pier 1, right?
Pier 1.
Oh, stop. Can we stop?
If they come.
Tell him to stop.
You can stop, but if they catch you, they took off your camera.
Well, we don't want that. This is Pier 1. This is where we came to buy water, beer. They had cockfights.
Huh?
No. Keep going then. Keep going. We don't want to take our cameras. This is Pier 2. This is where they kept tens of thousands of people in the heat, locked up. At that time, there was concertina wire around the entire place. A lot of armed guards. They didn't ask you a question a second time. There was a lot of gunfire. That's where he loaded up with 147 refugees on a 55-foot boat.
Right here.
Yeah, and that's where I saw the old man get hit with the gun butt, right there.
Marielle was now part of our family history. I'm glad my son got a chance to see it.
I've always thought about it, and I was always kind of curious about what it was actually like, and I've actually always wanted to do something like that with my life, something that I'd always remember and my children and grandchildren would always respect and remember for the rest of their lives.
Well, don't you dare do anything as stupid as that, please.
And when we got off the bus again, the world seemed a brighter place. There was an easy flow to the pickup games. Games that formed quickly, needed no oversight, no planning, no bureaucracy. They offered the pleasure of unadorned play.
Little League's been the death of baseball in our society, and school getting out, and vacations, and camps, and everything else. We've conditioned our kids, and that's a sad thing. We've mauled our kids. We have TV'd our kids. Kids don't pick up and all come out together after supper and play baseball till the sun goes down. Where in Cuba, you go down, this place would be packed. If they had a field this nice, there would be a ball game on here all the time. Hell, they play in the gutters over there. They play in rubble in the inner cities. You know, that's why I like it.
We saw so many times in rural areas boys playing baseball on diamonds they'd made themselves, and using balls that they had made. They take a rock and they'll wrap it with tape or twine or string, and using bats that they've carved out of limbs of trees, hand carved, with no gloves, no shoes.
They play every day.
Every day?
Yeah.
Su nombre?
Greta.
Greta.
¿Te dieron una tigre?
Con gusto. Con gusto. And you see kids that passionate about a sport that we love. The opportunity to give them the gear, the gift of the game, that opportunity is an extraordinary thing.
Our date with the Gigi's only 36 hours away, we headed to the city. Old Havana is the last stronghold of our automotive youth, a living museum of Americana. John, Bill, and I decided to take a Beach Boys tour and explore the time warp.
Mi amigo is excelente driver. Indianapolis 500. Is okay? Okay, they say you can drive the car.
Cool. Tanga, puro boya.
Buenos días, amigo. We're not coming back to you.
See you in,
I think he understands.
yeah, see you in 12 months.
Havana in a T-bird. What a great way to see a great city.
How far to Miami?
We headed up the narrow streets and beyond the Plaza of the Revolution in 58 T-bird bliss. But the Spaceman had one really bad play left to make.
Oh, Bill, you're too short. Bill.
Was?
Yeah, you cut it too short. Back up.
What did I cut short?
Back up. You cut it way.
Well, I'll tell you something. I didn't want to drive it. I'm not a Ford guy.
Doesn't look good. Doesn't look good, bro. No, maybe we can spray paint it real quick. As he came around and make the quick right-hand turn, the fiberglass from the 58 T-Bird, which was a beautiful, beautiful purple, just nicked the post a little bit. But hey, you know, things happen.
There aren't a lot of insurance agencies in Havana, so we had to settle the damage on our own.
Oh, $450? You can get that fixed for $100.
$475.
Even in the web of old Havana's streets, baseball debate rages. But once an American tries to turn the subject from Campaneros to Castro, boy, anxiety quickly rises.
Being in the country, we're giving this equipment away. In Havana, the guy can, the party. Don't give anything away, the party's watching. What do you mean the party? And that's where you felt the Castro, you know, crunch.
Police? You police? Ah, information me? I don't know.
With only 24 hours before we would relaunch Hemingway's Gigi Stars, we were in Havana Stadium to play our only officially sanctioned game. We'd be playing Cuba's over 40 greats. The old Cubans were the cream of the country's baseball from the previous 40 years. Each had been a star, even though many were over 60, and they played a level of ball we could only dream about.
One of the great catchers in Cuban history right here. And you notice we kind of look alike, I don't know.
We're in trouble, boys. You see those bodies? Those are called bueno cuerpos, good bodies. It's called Dunlap disease. It's when your belly Dunlaps over your belt.
Fire up, breakfast of champions.
We'd drawn pretty good crowds out there in the country, but this place, it was eerily empty. Maybe word had spread about how bad we really were. Even so, the old Cuban stars treated us with respect. Until the game started, anyway.
One small miracle for mankind, that's all we're asking for. Get us out of here with no injuries, a good time, everybody has fun. Protect us, Lord, we need it. And a little rum for the Chango, a little rum for the Padre. Bless you. Play ball! I think the first 7 guys he faced were like line drives. Hey, get the married men off the infield. I mean, these guys could play. I mean, these guys were good.
And we were struggling.
Para sentirme feliz, me quieres tú, te adoro yo, que dicha estar, así los dos, tú para mí, yo para ti.
Well, I tried the left side of the mound, that didn't work. I tried the right side of the mound, that didn't work. So I went back to the middle into the big old hole that's soft in there, and I got an out. Good job.
Rogan had been hitting pretty well for a hockey player, but this pitcher, he was tough. Still, we held on.
It's all right, guys. Hold them right there.
Great job, only 8 runs. We're fine, we're fine.
They'll get tired.
Hey, we're wearing them down. They're going to get tired of running the bases.
But they didn't. They ran, and when they tired, they walked.
I think the Cuban team is too strong for them. You can see that they used to play baseball, but they are no more in shape. You know what I mean?
I think if we had 911 services available, this would be the time to call them.
They got a guy out there who's older than Methuselah, but he got us. But I think next inning we should get him. I mean, right between his coronary and his stroke, I think we got a shot at him.
Chances of us scoring off this guy are slim and none.
Oh, are you kidding? I got $10. You'll hit one out of here on him.
Okay.
His fastball's right there.
It is.
With a $10 bet on the line, Bill comes through.
Yeah, I just hit a home run off my dad.
The embarrassment of a shutout over, we beat a hasty retreat.
So I think the best thing to do now is for us to make this third out, which we just did, and hit the cerveza.
Oh, nice play.
Okay, shake hands and hit the bus, guys. Cerveza time. All right. All right. Very good. Very good. Let's go. Shake hands. Don't let them talk us into 9 innings. Shake hands. Let's go. All righty. Thank you, boy.
Good pitcher, good pitcher.
You guys wore me out in the first inning.
Well, I think this team is going to have to go on a little stricter training regimen. I'm going to suggest that alcohol be banned after we get back to the States.
As we headed for the bus, though, something deeply disturbing happened. An officer from the Ministry of Sports called me aside and demanded all of the equipment we'd brought for the GG Stars. He had soldiers with him and guns, no cameras allowed. They marched us back to the bus and cleaned us out.
You know, and they were even wanting our shoes and stuff. Yeah, and it was sort of nasty, and it was sort of shaky.
We were down, really bummed. It was all poor John could do to pick a partner at random and make himself tango. Despite being shaken down by the soldiers, we had a date with the kids of San Francisco de Paula, a date I was determined to keep, the culmination of a year's work. We expected the whole village to be there waiting, including the old GG Stars. Instead, there were just a couple of teenagers and some cows. We walked the perimeter of the field talking about what we could do to improve it. And we played catch while we waited. Waited for an hour, talking around the obvious. We'd been stood up.
And Randy's like, I mean, his jaw is like, huh.
All right. Well, I guess I'll have to go look around some.
Just as we were leaving, up the hill came Blas, the little man with the big smile.
This is Blas Mesa, who's one of the original GG Stars. Oh, no films? No.
But Blas wasn't smiling now. Plans had changed, he said. There'd be no game, no fiesta, no cameras, government rules. This was not the friendly, happy man who greeted me so warmly just a few days before.
He is a completely different person. He's frightened. Clearly someone has gotten to him, talked to him, which is, it's sad. It truly is sad. They're wonderful people, and they are frightened.
What I hadn't realized was that Blas Mesa was his village's block captain for the Communist Party. He had some authority. I needed to give Blas a reason to help us. And I gave him the only good reason I had, our mutual love of baseball. We pieced together a compromise he could present to his superiors. Then all I could do was wait. The compromise was approved. We wouldn't be allowed a game, but we could have a party.
Wonderful! After you.
Suddenly, the little catcher and I were pals again.
GG Stars, here we come.
Blas made several phone calls, then invited us to a public park. Amazing. All the GG Stars, Hemingway's old team, they were waiting. In a village that size, news spreads quickly. In the faces of children, you can sometimes see the way they will look as old people. And in these aging Gigis, as they talked about the days long past, I could see the eyes of the child within.
Luis, did Ernest Hemingway play baseball with you?
Sí, como no jugó.
Sí.
¿Jugaba?
Jugó siempre. Él era el que nos pichaba a nosotros. Él nos enseñaba a batear y... Entonces siempre el que le gustaba pichar era Gigi. Bateaba, no bateaba duro, pero bateaba. Era muy alto, muy fuerte y podía dar un golpe a un niño.
Una gran impresión, un hombre tan famoso, tan... impresionaba, la verdad que él es una persona extraordinaria.
And are you all close friends?
Siempre.
Siempre, como hermano. Like a brother.
If we bring up some baseball gloves and baseball, can we play catch?
Bueno, tirarnos algunas pelotas.
Son bolsas. Tenemos que entrenar.
Tirarnos nada más.
So for the first time in many decades, the Gigi Stars took the field again. Once watched by Hemingway, now by their grandchildren.
Arriba!
I got to catch Blas and Umberto. They could still throw. Someone had taught them well.
And this is Umberto.
And across the street, Bill worked with their neighbors.
The great thing about here is it doesn't take them but 3 people to find a great catcher. The first guy took the glove from the little guy who wanted to play catch, and he commandeered it because he had more tonnage on him. And then it went to the other kid who was a better ball player, and then finally the real catcher appears, and he grabs it and he handles it, throws from a sitting position with a little something to show him he's got a good arm. Doesn't even rise up, you know, and I go, amazing. Just great ball players all emerged from this island. And I'll tell you, if you gave them good equipment and gave them a good field to play on.
If they had the equipment. The Gigis had surprised us. Now it was our turn to surprise them. Them and the entire village. Catchers aren't known for their cunning, but remember, I dealt with the Cuban government before. So when we first got to Havana, I'd paid a guy to lock away a truckload of gear until we called for it. We had everything. Enough to equip 5 full teams for a couple of years.
Don't let those boys push you around, okay? Oh, you're so sweet. Thank you.
There are times when the world really does seem tinted by rose-colored glasses.
Brother Augusto. Augusto. You guys sign the ball for me. Escribe de pelota. Well, it's been a long road, but we finally found the Gigi Stars. Here's to Umberto, and Luis, and Augusto, and Blas, and all the other Gigi Stars.
Gigi Stars, Gigi Stars. Salud, salud, salud.
And then the party began.
Escuela.
Teach
Niños, children.
baseball, children, all the children.
Never throw a cambio to a mall hitter. Stay hard.
The old Gigis promised that no one would take this gear away. They'd make sure it stayed with the kids. As Hemingway knew more than 50 years ago, baseball is a powerful way to build connections between generations and between cultures. When I returned home, the fate of the Hemingway League was still uncertain. Government could still derail it. But then 3 months later, I received a letter from Blas Mesa. The league had been restarted. Hemingway's lost team had new life. Blas included the team roster from 1940, right next to the new roster. Many of the last names were the same. Perfect. Blas signed it, your old catcher friend, and he invited me to come back and coach. This time, I can't wait to go.